I'm Tae-Soo Sin along with Steve Melikov back on courtside for today's matchup between Japan and the United States. And we're looking at the Japanese lineup today. Japan did give a good account of themselves, didn't they, Steve, against Cuba, although eventually losing 3-1.
Well, I tell you how I'm looking at them right now. I think just like Mauna Loa, the volcano, there is something rumbling. They are starting to put it together. You're seeing it coming up on the stats as we see now the American team. They've got a lot of class, the Americans, and you're right, they've been on a win streak. But you know that the Japanese are saying something in their court play, particularly with the performance from Fujiyoshi yesterday, coming up with a double offense there. I think you call them the Twin Terrors.
And away we go with the match. The Japanese in the red, the dark strips of the Americans on the left. As we see the opening salvo fired by Ikumi Ogake before a crowd of over 4,000 here at the University of Hawaii Hall. Terra cross battle.
Well, I tell you what's happening here on a matchup as far as height. You're going to get an advantage with the Americans, but the Japanese tend to play a better unit defense. And as I said, they're starting to work into an offensive rhythm that we saw pop up yesterday when they got that one-set win against the Cubans. They definitely outplayed the Cubans, and I think it built a sense of confidence with them, and they might be able to carry that over today.
The Japanese, although going down to the Cubans, we really see that they enjoyed themselves tremendously on the court.
They're just, as I was suggested in yesterday's game, they ought to get some kind of reward for attitude, because they are the attitude team of this tournament. Nothing seems to shake them up. They just keep hanging in there and coming back for more.
And Obayashi, one of the two Japanese players that we'll be watching out for, along with Fujiyoshi. She did a great dink shot over the Americans that time.
Both of them are lefties. Motoko Obayashi, you just mentioned, hits fast, has low back sets, sprints down the net for wrong side sliders. The biggest threat without a doubt on this Japanese team, but the big play has been with Fujiyoshi, Maki Fujiyoshi, also kind of cloning her, which has given the Japanese offense a little different look, and it's going to be something for the Americans to be thinking about. They're not one-dimensional as they were earlier in this tournament.
Cross battle again. Nice block by the Japanese. This time Karen Kamner, the seasoned veteran from the American team. Karen Kamner, there she is. Great inspiration to the American side. 1-1 at the start here of this opening set. Fujiyoshi, the left-handed player, and there was a good spike down, which Danielle Scott, or big partner was Oden. Elena Oden wasn't able to contain.
We've got about 4,200 people out here to watch this at the University of Hawaii. And, of course, being on home soil, as you correctly pointed out, is a big advantage to the Americans. But they do tend to sputter. They don't always have it together. A lot of it has something to do with, as we see a point there, T. Williams, if she's on at 1.80 meters, if she's on and she gets that spike working, they can really rumble.
Diagonal spike down by Fujiyoshi, just finding the line, and a big one coming down from Danielle. It's Elena Oden.
And Elena Oden, number 9, that's her specialty shot. We saw her do this before. She likes to get that quick attack, quick set, and take it over. She stands 1.85, 190 pounds. Obviously, the biggest player on this team, occupies a lot of real estate in the center of that court.
Elena Oden will be a formidable opponent for the Japanese today, but they're doing well here in the opening stages. Still keeping track of the Americans' progress. It's 2-all, and the spike down from Tajimi that was well sent back into the Japanese half.
Shot of T. Williams there talking to her players. As I say, T is a great spiker. She gets up over that net, but she can be sporadic.
Nicely done that time by Aki Nakatomi, and she was one of the players who really impressed in the match against Cuba. Nakatomi, not a very flashy type of player, but certainly did well. Kamner then against a nice block at the net by Ogake. Oden, and down, the push. Americans still keeping it on. Roared on by the home crowd here in Honolulu. Set up now for Kamner, the big one. Blocked again by Nakatomi. Set down now for Scott, both the American girls were going for the same ball. Eventually, the Japanese won it through that spike down from Fujiyoshi.
And there you see it. This has been coming up all the time. Japanese have always been noted for having some kind of a defensive play. They got the 4 best diggers in this tournament, ranked 1, 2, 9, and 10 respectively, Ogaki, Nagatomi, Obayashi, and Tajimi. And they're out there, and they are cooking. They're out there to play today. The Americans got themselves a match on their hands. We see Teres Liskovic looking on.
Japan 1 point in front here. Good serve. Kamner again, and this time she powers it down to no man's land. Hard to send the ball back. The Japanese side.
And for my money, there's no better team leader out there than Karen Kemner. We saw her bring her team to wins in the past. She's the best team leader. She's solid on her digs and her passing, but she is intense.
Karen Kamner, 31 years old. The new find in the Japanese side is Fujiyoshi, just 22.
There we see Karen coming up from that secondary position, hammering, getting that big spike. She's not known as a big spiker, but of course, players at this world-class level, they all can do it. But she gets up there. I just like her intensity. She keeps her team glued together.
And the ball goes wide and long. And that came from Asako Tajimi. As the Americans go 5-4 up.
It's important for the Japanese, just as they did yesterday with these big power spikers, to stay close. Once they waffle a little bit, they're in trouble. If they start getting behind 2, 3, 4 points, they're going to run on them, the Americans will. They've got that kind of explosive power. Japanese, on the other hand, if they can get this spiking combination working I've referred to, can be very serious business out there today. And, of course, that always helps when you got unforced errors. That time is T. Williams.
Well, that last call not given to the Americans, as the thought. So it's still 4-all. And the running the spike landed straight into Naomi.
Nice hit, Danny. Nice set, Yoko. That way to push it here.
Daniel Scott, this is Nakatomi. Kamner. And Kamner going for a big shot. And Kamner wins the points for the Americans. And it's 5-4. We take a technical timeout, and we'll be back in a moment. University of Hawaii Hall, day 2 of competition of the Honolulu Pool, the 1996 WVGP. Daniel Scott there at bearing the brunt of that attack from Ikumi Ogake.
And you get the feeling the Americans got to have their heads screwed on right to stay with the Japanese or to be able to dominate. It's not going to be a walk in the park here. Japanese are starting to show early signs of digging well and coming back with an attack strategy of their own right down the center. As you said earlier, the coach from Japan, they know this club well. There's no surprises out here.
Lena Oden going there for a jump ball. Still setting here for the Americans.
Another great dig.
And powering down from the left-handed Fujiyoshi.
And there she comes, just like she did against the Cubans. Let me tell you, when they start getting in these long, protracted kind of point struggles, I think the odds go to the Japanese. America's got to shut it down fast, set it up, and take that shot, that quick set, and attack just like you just saw right there from Elena. That's their game, getting from the side, getting down the pipe, hitting them power balls, because there's Japanese are really going to sit there and dig with you until they force you to err or score on their own.
5-all. Nakatomi's good reverse set and immediately punished by Obayashi.
There's that quick attack. Of course, Obayashi's the one that they depend on to do that, Tay. She can probably execute better, as I've been saying, though. Fujiyoshi, though, if she's doing it as well, then, as I said, you've got a little problem coming on. Japanese now are in a very good position. Here comes the jump serve.
Well handled by T. Williams, and Kamner again. The block was not good. The ball landed out. Obayashi sending ball down. Zetterlund. Here's Fujiyoshi, the other half of the Twin Terror. Kamner, and Fujiyoshi's block denies the Americans.
And I tell you what I just saw there. Karen Kemner come up there with that patented spike attempt. But the Japanese, as I say, we know that they know who they are in terms of playing strategy. They know how to play the Americans, and that time they anticipated beautifully. They were there, they had the wall up, and they made it. That time, not so successful. It looks like the ball stayed in, kissed the line.
Indeed, the effort from Karen Kamner was good. Score remains 5-all. Libero Nakamura for the Japanese. She came on for majority of the match yesterday against Cuba. Nakamura, the libero, wearing number 9.
It's early days, but it looks like to me the Americans are a little bit sluggish on that secondary baseline position there, that second line position. They're not picking up the ball and setting up properly. If that happens, they can start having some problems. They need to stay awake, and that's part of their problem. Whenever they start to have problems, it normally starts on that back line area. It's not up at the net. It's generally back there. So be watching for that.
Scores haven't changed, and there's the example of what Steve's talking about.
It's a good spike, but really ball didn't have that much pace on it. It just looked like she had anchors on her feet for a second, wasn't able to react, Karen.
Zetterlund setting up for cross battle. Nicely sent back by Tajimi, a dink shot, and the ball has touched the nets, and it will be the decision going the Japanese way.
I haven't said much about Tara cross battle, but let me put it on record right now. Tara, number 13 on her jersey, is ranked number 2 in this tournament as far as overall best scorer. So she's clearly their big hitter. There's an example of power, but look how the Japanese are coming back at it. They just are really, really picking up the ball well. They're reading well. That was T. Williams on that shot. But cross battle is number 2. Right behind her, number 10, Danielle Scott. So you got some firepower, real howitzers out there.
Well, every time I look at Terra cross battle, reminds me very much of the Cuban powerhouse Regla Torres.
Yeah, very much just like those regulators we were talking about. They'll double up on you, and you don't know who's coming. It's like a double-barrel shotgun.
So the score finally changes here with the Japanese edging in front. Nakatomi there with the serve. And a quick left-handed push down there by Yoko Zetterlund. Another important player in the American lineup. The number 2, Zetterlund. A touch, and the ball sailing just over the net. Elena Oden, and the block was good back into the American half.
I think that was kind of a sluggish spike attempt. I don't know if that was Oden. I didn't quite pick up who that was, but you could sure see those 3 sets of Japanese hands up there ready. They're reading very, very well at the moment. Unforced error there. This is the kind of thing, they start getting sporadic, they start sputtering, they're going to have problems. Elena went for that. She normally makes that shot.
So 2 points now, the Japanese lead. And coming in again, the secondary line, cross battle. Obayashi setting it up again for Tajimi. Fujiyoshi landed with Kamner now. Setting up here for Oden, the big one. All credit to the Japanese, the Ogake, for saving the ball. Second time round, then the ball rebounded in favor of cross battle and the Americans.
And Tara doing her number there, but I tell you, again, you see the reason why the stats show they're so tough on their digs. They're just picking up everything. And as I say, as the longer they go on these type of protracted types of points, the more the odds sort of sneak in toward the Japanese side.
Here comes the Americans again, and the Japanese doing well at this point in time, reading the American spikes very well.
Another great dig, and that again is Ogaki. And here she comes trying to finish.
And Omar Ogaki met the towering Elena Oden there.
Great individual player on her part, though, Tay, wouldn't you say?
Definitely so. As the Americans now close up to within a point, 6-7. And Obayashi again proving that the Japanese mean business here today.
And sliding right down that net, coming around with that left-handed slam jam, and she did it. And I tell you, that's, if you start stringing those together with this kind of solid defense, well, the story starts to get real interesting.
Nakamura facing the full force there of Terra cross battle.
Well, you know, at 1.83 meters, Terra cross battle is going to come into a volleyball game and get hers. There's nobody going to stop. The question is, what are they doing as a unit? That's where the breakdown, not individually, as a unit.
Japanese doing fine up to this point. Tajimi. Obayashi serving 7-6. Kamner finding space Nakamura a bit late in going down there. Nakatomi and Fujiyoshi again looking for that space at the far end of the American half, and that's an unforced error. Really, T. Williams in two minds over what she should do with that ball, to spike it down or to send over a dig shot. In the end, she failed miserably, and that one just sailed long. The serves, the Japanese have got to get the serves right. They can't afford to make unforced errors. It's a soft, tame serve they're coming in. Americans still in control. No, the ball's sailing out again from T. Williams.
Be watching very carefully, fans at home. Number 2, Yoko Zetterlund at 1.79. Arguably, in fact, by stats, number 1 in this entire tournament for her setting ability. She is the heart and soul of this team. When she's out there and she's playing at that number, she's got number 2 on her jersey, she is what they depend on. If Yoko sets her up, everybody else can cook behind them. But look at here, it's 8-6 over the Americans. The Japanese certainly playing a lot better than they did in the first game against the Cubans when they went down 15-3.
Now the Japanese, after 7 matches, they have not won any of those. So this 8th match, really they have not much to lose, haven't they, Steve?
Well, I think they're playing very, very relaxed. I think they went home, they got out their notebooks, they sharpened their pencils, they sat down with Coach Kazuha, and they started looking at where the holes were and started plugging it up. I mean, they're out here playing right now essentially even volleyball, in my judgment, with the more powerful Americans. As I said, 4 out of 6 on the lineup on the Americans are standing taller and probably arguably have much better spike power all the way around. But that's not how you win volleyball games. You win volleyball games with team effort, and that in the defense, like the Japanese, starting to show what you can turn around and make it into an offensive threat. Like that, the blocking power.
Well, let's see whether the Japanese can clinch the victory here in the first set. Looking good here, and the points piling up for them now. 3 in front over the Americans. And the ball deflected out by Ito of the spike from T. Williams.
Slowly but slowly, they're starting to edge away from the Americans, who are still sort of sputtering out there. They're stuck on stuck a little bit. They're trying to find their rhythm. I don't think you're in there yet.
Elaine Youngs, the player to come in for T. Williams, 26-year-old.
Coach Liskovich coming in there, probably trying to inject a little bit of change. They're still sluggish off that second line, that back line position. They're not coming up, they're not picking up, and they're not reading well. They're going for the one spike hit, which, of course, is the fundamental part of their offense. They want to get that big power spike in there as soon as they can in the rotation.
Second referee there, just confirming the substitution. Number 15, Elaine Youngs, the American girl, coming on for T. Williams.
Elaine using that big jump serve, one of the few Americans that has that capacity.
The ball falling out of the block from Ito. And it was her opposite number, Tara Cross Battle, who sent the ball down. Young to jump serve, and that fooled the Japanese, in particular Asako Tajimi.
Well, she's just like your fastball pitcher, comes in as a reliever. She comes in there, that jump serve had a lot of pace, but the real worry was that top spin that comes down there. The ball really dips. It's like a slider. It just dips in towards your feet.
Coming again, the Americans, and the ball again deflected out by Ito and Obayashi. 2 of the Japanese coming up for the ball from Tara Cross Battle, and we're all even. Elaine Youngs again, the 3rd time with a jump serve.
Another low, difficult to handle serve, but they do well, the Japanese.
And Kamner into the net. I don't think any of the Japanese blockers touched the ball. It was straight into the net there by Karen Kamner.
Kamner just took the ball a little bit late, and as a result, it just dived in under the top of the net.
Nice touchdown, and that was from Danielle Scott. Scott immediately makes way for another veteran, Paula Weishoff, along with Karen Kamner, the mainstay of the American team. Weishoff now serving. Nakatomi for Obayashi. 2-handed block there, did well, Kamner. Oden, Takatomi, Obayashi again, and Kamna leaving it late there. Nice, neat push. Nakatomi and Obayashi again, and the ball coming off the hands of Elaine Youngs.
And they're just having a great deal of success, the Japanese are, going after that secondary position. They've knotted it back up again. We're at 9-9 now. They got a chance to go, and the ball drops in.
And that will be a point for the Japanese. 10-9 to them now. The match continues after this short break. Here in the first set, this Honolulu pool match, day 2 of competition here. Touch at the net there from Obayashi, as well as Zetterland. That will go down with the Americans. Fujiyoshi coming in again. Now cross battle, and the second time round for her, this time returned by Ogake. And now Oden. Japanese doing very well. And the third time, Ogake. Back set now for Fujiyoshi. Sent back by Zetterland. Nicely touched there from Ogake. Or not, was it Najimi at the net?
Well, folks, I got to tell you, I think you're watching something very interesting coming on here in this game, no matter how it turns out. You're watching a team come together. The Japanese are really playing serious out there. They are starting to do all the right things that they've been suggesting that they could do. In this first game, it's already happening. Look at this.
And that one just found the line.
One could argue, oh, wow, they're a little bit lucky, but I don't think so. Some of these digs I've seen them pull out have just been extraordinary, but it's on the stats. They can do it.
Good lead now for Japanese, and the ball just spinning out there.
And what I like about what they're doing, there is absolutely nothing out of bounds. That libero dove for that ball. She didn't have much of a chance. You can see Liskovich's face. He's a little bit concerned. He can see the Japanese are in a rhythm. There again.
Obayashi and Kamna foiled again by Fujiyoshi, and now a set for Fujiyoshi, and she found space.
They just lifted their game up, Tay. They really have. They've come a ton since we saw them play the Cubans. They are playing solid volleyball at the moment. The question is, can they sustain? Let's see.
Lane Youngs, and the block was good. And Karen Kamna there, despite that late dive and try and retrieve the ball, wasn't able to do anything about that. 12-9.
And that's formidable. Looking at 12-9 a little bit later here, we see T. Williams coming back into this thing. There is this offensive and defensive display we're getting from the Japanese, I think, has got the Americans out of balance. They're out of round here a little bit. They're looking for a way. See, they're picking up everything.
Obayashi. Let's see how Kamna will inspire the Americans. Over, no. Now Oden, and Oden, another unforced error. Point to Japan.
And she got in a hurry. She was just trying to really pound that ball through the defense, and in so doing, nailed it about 5 feet beyond the baseline.
13-9, and a win here in the first set will do the morale of the Japanese a whole lot of good as Karen Kamna attempts to put a stop to things. Nakatomi coming in again to Obayashi. Zetterland was ready to take her on. And into the nets, and it's set point now for Japan.
And the heart of all this activity here, and what's put them in the lead, has been the Japanese have taken a very solid defense and turned it into an offense. Those digs that they pulled in this first game, if they go on to win this one, are going to be the factor.
Kamna, and it's in. And Ogake looking on and hoping that the decision would go with the Japanese. It was not to be. Chasing 5 points now. Serve from Oden. Nakatomi setting it in nicely, and this time it's returned wide.
They're playing relaxed, they're playing comfortable. You see Obayashi, forever the optimist. They just believe they can win, and they've got a shot now to do it.
See whether the Japanese can close it out now. Nice touch, still keeping it alive. The big ball there from Obayashi. There she is. Nakatomi setting out for Ito.
What are you watching?
And the Japanese closing out the first set, winning it 15-9. Join us for set number 2 after the break. Now back here with the Japanese winning the first set 15-9. Steve, rarely have we seen the Japanese clinch the opening set, and this one over the Americans will certainly help their cause as the match progresses.
Well, they just went into overdrive instantly. Coach Kazuha has to be happy. He's out there. We saw a few moments ago Coach Liskovich not so happy, and actually the normally quiet-natured man had something to say to his club. He can see what's going on here. There's a trend here, and if the folks at home can pick it up, it's all Japanese at the moment. Japanese, now the question is, you know, it's like tennis. You get high in one set, but one set doesn't win it all. This is best of 5. Americans have gotten a ding-a-ling now. They've gotten a wake-up call. Let's find out whether or not they're willing to get up and start moving.
Well, the Americans have come back with a vengeance here, clinching the first 2 points as Ito plants the ball down beyond the reach of Daniel Scott.
And obviously, Coach Kazuha has been studying his books because he knows where the holes in the American defense are, and it's back there in that secondary position.
Ball first coming off Obayashi and then hitting the body of Nakatomi off that spike from Chara cross battle. Side out back to the Americans. Zetterlund here serving.
That time that serve a lot better from Yoko than what we saw earlier.
Obayashi getting the serve back for Japan.
Well, you got those twin towers, Fujiyoshi at 1.84 and Obayashi at 1.82. They're keeping this club pretty much together. But I got to tell you, it's that defense, that tenacity, that really solid dig defense that they've sort of just dug a hole here, and they're not giving up any space. No real estate for the Americans.
First time there we saw the error in serve from Ogaki. As Fujiyoshi once more sends the ball out. The scoreline will please Leskovich. 3-0. Japanese through Ogaki once more. Japanese now looking to get off the mark here at the start of the second set. Camera sends the ball back. Nice return from Oden. Cross battle, Nakatomi, and down from Fujiyoshi. Zetterlund, nice sets. Great defense. Obayashi now with a thing or two of her own. Obayashi setting it, and the Americans reply to T. Williams.
And you see T. Williams, who incidentally is playing her next to the last game on her contract. I don't believe you'll see her after the next game. She comes up there. She's pumped up because she wants to get this club going. She knows, you know, she's playing in front of her home crowd. She's hearing all this cheering going on, and she wants to make sure it happens right.
Fujiyoshi there with a diagonal spike. Just touched the line as the scoreline remains at Japan 0, Americans 3. Williams, Obayashi, nice set. Unfortunately, Ito wasn't able to get the ball over the net.
I think the Americans have made some adjustments and been able to pick up that ball off that second line. They're starting to play a lot better on their digs, and their sets seem to be cleaner, and because of it, they're sitting at a 3-0 lead.
Ito, again, the ball just rebounding off the nets, and despite that late dive from Ogaki, the Japanese were not able to return the ball and thus concede their 4th point to the Americans. Nice dig shots. Tajimi again setting up for Fujiyoshi, and the ball bounces back into the Japanese half.
Yeah, it was a weak set. She's trying to go from that side, wasn't able to make it, Tay.
5-0 to the Americans. We'll see you in a moment. In the second set, Kamner serves. Performing much better as a unit here in the second set, the Americans. Remember, they trail by 1-0. The side out back to Japan. Fujiyoshi will serve.
And you got that right. The Americans are seemingly tightening it up. But, you know, the Japanese just don't break. I mean, they stay really positive all the time. Doesn't matter what the score is. They're just in your face. They're not going to be intimidated.
And the ball just sent down there. She was looking for the near line.
But just as, excuse me, Tate, but just as we saw with the Cubans, once a power team like the USA, Cuba, Brazil, whatever, starts to string them on them, it makes it that much tougher for them, and this is something they have to avoid. They've got to stay close until they can open up the margin on their own.
Americans are the defending champions here in the Grand Prix. And there's another demonstration of their superiority. Elena Oden.
Elena can come up and take that quick attack. She's the best on the club to do it.
Kobayashi, left-handed return from cross battle. Eventually the ball sent out by Danielle Scott.
Well, for whatever reason, I think you'd agree with me, Tara has not been a real factor in this contest tonight so far, but that doesn't mean she won't start up any minute. In fact, I just saw one there, but the Japanese are negating it with great digs.
Great block again at the center there from the big girl, Elena Oden, from that spike from Obayashi. Any other lesser opponents, and the ball might just sail over. Zetterlund. Obayashi, the ball rebounding kindly here for the Americans. Obayashi sets up now for Ogake, and the dive there from cross battle wasn't quite good enough.
Elena moving over there to try to pick up that block. Unfortunately, just ticked her left hand and then went out of bounds.
Jump serve straight into the body of Williams. Kamna coming down there, and the ball coming off Tajimi.
Kamna needs a little room to motivate her legs before she gets up. When she does it, she can be pretty threatening, as you just saw there. Now we see cross battle on the serve.
Nakatomi sends it down, and again Zetterlund pushes the ball into the net for a side out back to Japan.
And you see that momentum that the Japanese has gone into sort of a stall. They're not losing altitude, but they're not gaining either. They're just hanging in, trying to figure out how to get that zone, get back into that zone to start stringing the points. But the Americans aren't giving them much room. They're playing a lot tighter.
First points to the Japanese. Courtesy of that lady we just saw, T. Williams. Zetterlund now for Kamna. That one finds the line nicely.
That's a great spike. Had so much power on it. Look at it. She comes around, and look, boy, the key to that one, if you could see it there in a replay, was the timing. She was right there at the perfect moment to get that velocity and angle.
Fujiyoshi, again, the block was good. Nakatomi, they're trying something a little different, and that had the Americans in some sort of trouble. (1-5). And Kamna passed the ball again to the back line.
Americans this time just starting to show their power. They really do have that power. They're maybe not quite as deep in it as the Brazilians and the Cubans, but they're formidable.
Cross-running spike from Fujiyoshi. And that ball came off the hand there of cross battle. Williams again. And the Japanese girl Nakatomi even crossing over to the opposition half to try and retrieve the ball.
Well, in game one, what we saw with the Japanese is they took everything the Americans could dish to them, and then they were coming back to that second position or that deeper position on the court and getting a lot of cheap points because of lack of movement. Now they're not picking it up quite as quickly because the Americans are powering up, coming up from that baseline or the secondary position, and it's hurting them. But I don't know. That can change. You never know, once they make the adjustment, what's going to happen next with the Japanese.
Kamna and three Japanese players there at the block. Williams, and the ball lands in to the dismay of the Japanese from cross battle.
And cross battle noted for this type of offensive potential, just angles it, hits that frozen rope down the line and gets one. And the Americans obviously a little bit more pleased. I'm sure Coach Liskovich got breathing a little sigh of relief as his club comes back for a timeout.
7-1, a good lead here for the Americans after going down to the Japanese in the first 15-9. The two sides met in the Osaka pool with the Americans beating the Japanese 3-1. The scores that time really emphasizing the difference in the standards. Americans triumphed 15-9, 9-15, 15-4, and 15-7.
No doubt about the fact the Japanese are trying to rebuild. They had a lousy, as did the Americans, actually. The Americans really were expected to get gold or silver in the Olympics, didn't get anything, came back with 0. Japanese didn't go in with expectations, changed coaches 4 times in 4 years, lots of changes, but here in this series, in this tournament, they seem to be starting to shape up a little bit and find an offensive flow that they hadn't had in the past.
Again, the power there from Danielle Scott, and she's happy with that.
She's ranked number 9 on the list in this tournament as the best attacker, and right behind her, of course, is Tara Crossbattle at number 10. So 9 and 10's not bad, and all the talented players that are out here competing in this competition worth over $1.3 million, I believe.
Just when you thought the Japanese would come back for the second point, along comes Tara Crossbattle. The Americans have the advantage here again. Obayashi, ball sent back by Kamna. Fujiyoshi, and the ball was overhit.
And the Americans are pretty much having it their own way right now because they got to that lead early and they were able to dominate.
All this time coming off the American blocker, and Lenz just inside the American half.
They opted to let it go, and the ball just took a little top on it, came right down and caught the line.
Zetterlund setting it up now. The cross-running spike, which was well met by the Japanese blockers. This time it comes from Oden. Obayashi sets, nice stick shot, and I believe the ball just went out of Tajimi. The ball had stayed in, that would have made a difference, but it remains 9-1 here with Zetterlund serving. Nakamura, Ogake, and Obayashi, and the ball has come back into the Japanese half of the block from Karen Kamna. And it's a huge lead here for the Americans, 10-1. Come back, and the Americans with a huge lead here over the Japanese, 10-1, and still in serve. Zetterlund, really nice, quick setup there.
Well, that technique, I don't know if we'll see a replay on it, was just beautiful volleyball on the part of Zetterlund. That's why she's number 1 in sets. That took a very deft touch to put the ball just up over the net so that that quick attack could be achieved, and it was. It was beautiful work.
Nakamura now for Obayashi. Obayashi seems to lack a bit of sting in this match today. A left-handed spike's not as powerful as the ones we saw in the display against Cuba.
Well, you know what's going on here. It's like a couple fighters early round. Suddenly, the Americans got left hooked on their keisters, and they got a wake-up call, and they've come back around again. They're jabbing their way and hitting these big spikes back into the game, and they've got this kind of lead now, and they're enjoying it.
And that is another example of how Obayashi was not able to pose any threat to the Americans.
And you can see the smile on their face. They're cruising. They're very, very happy. Hitting right cross, left hooks. They're coming back. They're playing the game they know they can play.
And putting a stop to that, Ogake. Let's look at the scoreline. Still a big lead here for the Americans. Just 2 points. Now all they need to close up the second set, and an error in serve again, this time from Ogake.
Well, they're just sitting on top of Mount Everest right now, and that's why they're playing so relaxed. One more, they can close it out and even it up, and there comes an unforced error. But at this stage of the game, Crossbattle probably isn't going to get too excited about that. Japanese not likely could do it, but who knows? This is the type of team that's got a lot of potential and capacity, and those kind of mistakes right there will help them along. He's sort of waving it off, saying, no, come on, we'll get back. Come on, we got it.
Score is now 2-13. And Obayashi serves this time for T. Williams. Well met, but in the end, the Japanese coming in with the winner from Tajimi.
T going 2 in a row on sloppy reactions, coming back with a very poor set, led to a point for the Japanese.
Zetterlund now, T trying to make amends, and it was this girl Obayashi who couldn't quite react fast enough to the spike from Tonya Williams.
Yeah, T coming back into it. No, a lot of, players, doesn't matter what sport we're talking about, baseball, basketball, football, soccer. You make a mistake, the one thing a player wants to do in a team event is make up for it, and T did.
The newcomer here to the American team, Christine Krein, wearing the number 6 in place of Elena Oden.
And I tell you, I think Karen really wanted that spike. She nailed it. That's her patented cross-quarter. The Japanese now, all of a sudden, lights are on again, and they're starting to pick up the ball. They're just not the kind of team that's going to lay down and die.
It will be a slow climb back for the Japanese. And Obayashi sends it spiked down, and it will be a point here.
It may be slow, but it is also sure. 13-3. Americans still need 2 big points to be able to get themselves in. I thought they'd picked up 1 earlier, but they didn't. They're still at a 13 mark.
Another poor serve from Tajimi as Kamna rallies the team now to secure the 2 points, which will make them level here in set scores. Ito, and Ito found the going good in her favor.
I just think the Japanese, no matter what this score is, as a team, tend to move better as a unit. There's certainly they got happier feet out there. Americans, on the other hand, a bit sluggish. Their forward movement not always as spiffy as you'd like to see it for a world-class club.
Saiki coming in for Fujiyoshi here. About the same point in the matches against Cuba that Saiki was introduced into the game by Coach Kuzuma.
Very, very popular. Gets all over the floor with her defense. She got this shoulder torques hitting style. Gets everybody excited, Japan. They always like to watch her come out. Lots of cheers for her when she's out there, Tay.
Elaine Young's the replacement now for T. Williams. Nakatomi. And a good push down by cross battle. This time Ito. Young's able to react fast enough. Nice push down.
And once again, the Japanese showing that dig ability. Pull that ball, keep it in play, hang in.
Nice set by Zetterlund, and this time it was good all the way. Saiki
getting herself some floor burns out there, going for it. But everybody else sees it and they say, wow, she's doing it. I better get into it too.
Set point here. Elaine Young's the jump serve didn't quite bother the Japanese. Ito, Nakatomi, and Ito sends the ball again. Young's. Good retrieve. The big one coming from Scott. And Obayashi now. Zetterlund will set it up here for Williams. And the ball just cannoning down from the spike by cross battle off the hands of Ito.
And once again, it's anticipation. Watching the flow of the American offensive style and reading the book, and it gets those blockers up there in time. Again, another great dig. Nakatomi that time.
Obayashi, the ball coming off the American girl for point number 5 for the Japanese.
Good example of how that really rock-solid defense the Japanese invested so much time to develop has turned into an offensive potential.
Nakatomi, Obayashi, Ito. Returned here by Kamna, and cross battle again, and this time the spike was good beyond the reach of Ikumi Ogake.
And now we're seeing Tara start to get back in this game a little bit. She's been kind of, I don't know, sort of sitting on neutral there for a while, and as Weishoff comes back in, the other veteran, out comes
Christine Klein, comes in just momentarily for Elena Oden, who's all ready for action to see out the end of this second set. 1 more point. Americans would tie up the set scores to 1-1, and the ball goes out of play of the hands of cross battle, and it is 1-1 And we'll have more action for you in a moment. Pool, the World Women's Volleyball Grand Prix 1996. The scoreline that will please Tara Liskovic.
And then we also see Coach Kazua calling his team. Now, the name of the game right now is It's a Push. It's a brand new match. It's a brand new contest. We're 0-0. What are the Japanese going to do with it? They've got to start regrouping. They're starting to show signs of that late in this second game. Let's see if they can continue it, because there's no reason they can't hold their own. They've already won one set. Americans haven't by any means dominated this contest today.
Danielle Scott, a good serve, and the ball was hit long and wide by Ogaki. Scott again, a good serve. Set up here for Obayashi. The ball coming off Elena Oden.
Elena getting up there. Obayashi, always the threat, always the one that you can count on for that big spike.
Scott there, and Ito and Obayashi with a very brave retrieve. Here's Obayashi setting up now for Ogaki. Kamna, and now the big one, and the Americans still keeping the ball in and into the net.
They had the Americans back all the way to the baseline. We saw Kemner. She does that a lot. She'll get up that dig, and she's able to pop the ball back nicely. So they're really starting to open up the Japanese, their offensive thrust. But here comes Oden again with that quick attack. You can count on one of those or two of those in any game you're going to watch the Americans play. She will find a way to get that point or get a side out with that attack shot.
Last point there by Oden was a joy to watch. The second time we've seen that quick set by Zetterlund, and down came Elena Oden.
Ogaki missing again, but she's going for the line. She's like a tennis player. She's trying to paint those lines, and she's not missing by much.
Fujiyoshi, the ball coming off Kamna, and Oden. Side out back to Japan. 1-2 now. You're in the third set. Kamna. And Nakamura there, and the crowd really oohing and eyeing every time Kamna sends those spikes down.
She just got a lot of power, you know. She can't get up over that net quite as high as some of these players. She's a very solid built person, and when she does get the right timing, she can generate probably more power than anybody on the team with that running spike.
Obayashi serving as Japan comes looking for the equalizing points. Nice string shot there, and she was too far back. That time Ogaki.
Americans still playing real relaxed, Tay. They're starting to find their rhythm. They're in the game very well. I don't think they see themselves where they were in this first game. They're into it now.
Help there again by the unforced error from Obayashi, which presents the Americans with their third point. Nakatomi sets nicely there for Scott, and the second time now into the body of Nakamura.
Great individual effort by Danielle. She just came over. 1'8" frame helped a lot, and she spiked it at such an angle, was no play.
And the spike now from Fujiyoshi, this time doing well there for the Japanese.
Doing a little clone number like her partner Obayashi, both of them lefties.
T. Williams now. Nakatomi setting up nicely again, and their touch this time was just long.
The Americans have shut the door on, and Kemner is a big reason for it right now. She's been involved in a lot of these plays. She just inherited the serve.
You got her here in the three.
Kamna showing lots of stamina and staying power too, as Fujiyoshi plants the ball wide, and that will be a point to the Americans. 5-1. We return to Honolulu in a while. That's it.
Well, the situation is very, very basic, I think, really. The Japanese offense at best is sporadic. If they're on the lines and they're making it, they're going to be tough. What they really need to do right now, they can't get this run going again like the Americans have had. They've got to tighten up with their money game, and that's the defense. They got to do what they did that first game. Start locking it in.
Interesting to see whether the Americans will allow the Japanese to stage a comeback of sorts here.
But the Japanese have to do it with that outstanding dig mentality that they have as a club. They are a very, very solid unit, but right now, in the last few minutes, they have not been showing it, and as I say, their offense is sluggish. They're not counting on the Americans to make mental mistakes, because right now, they're pretty solid mentally, I think. They're very relaxed, and they're playing their game their way.
A couple of new players coming into the court there as the Japanese win another point.
Danielle went for that spike down the pipe, wasn't able to make it, timing a little bit off. Not a great set there for her.
Saiki is in for Japan. There she is, number 11. There's Saiki now on the attack. American libero Selena Davidson also in, and that is in too by Danielle Scott.
And the reason she made that had something to do with Miss Zetterlund. Again, Zetterlund's sets put it all together, and that was just right over the top like she did earlier, and I think it was in the second game. Watch that. That's a technique that you got to respect.
That's why Zetterlund is one of the premier setters here in the Grand Prix tournament.
Number 1.
And she shows her class there with the deft flick of the wrist and a swift turnaround.
Like Elena Oden, that's part of her arsenal. You'll see 1 or 2 of those during a match as well.
Nakamura. Now Nakatomi setting it here for Saiki. And this time Obayashi in the tussle with Elena Oden, in which Obayashi loses out.
And here again, we don't see the Japanese bringing that defense in the way we did in the first game. They played wonderful volleyball that first game. Let's hope they can find it. If they can, they're going to make a game out of this.
Error in serve from Zetterlund as Kuzuwa, ever so vocal, rallies his team round. But that's error this time on the opposite end from Saiki. Back to cross battle for the Americans. And Obayashi then, not much power in that shot.
In my mind, say this is where you start really looking at the fiber of a team, the mentality of the team. They've pushed with them 1-1. They're in trouble here in the second game. A lot of teams, even at this level, world-class level, will start to get the fold number going. You start seeing the long faces. You start seeing the attitude going. But I just don't see it happening on the Japanese team. They're still playing through, and they're still playing the game that they're trying to play and looking for the right set of combinations to do it.
Obayashi is not figured in the plans of the coach at this particular point in time. She's replaced by the new girl Hoshino, and Fujiyoshi strikes down the ball into the hands of Kamna. There she is, Fujiyoshi.
Maki bringing it down, but like I said, that's very important for their offensive future, to have 2 players of that caliber being able to work the other side.
Power again from the Americans.
It has been a power display. Not a lot of great movement. I'm not all that impressed with the movement, but the power of the sets, especially from Zetterlund, are outstanding.
Kamna setting it down again, and off the elbow of Fujiyoshi. She was brave enough to try and return that spike down from T. Williams.
Karen put that one on the moon before she had T come at it.
8-2, and Fujiyoshi this time finds the line.
And as we said earlier, Fujiyoshi has to figure, and she's starting to now. She's been in the last 2 spikes and been successful on both of them. The Japanese back in it to chance to score.
With Obayashi not performing up to her usual mark, the Japanese will have to look to Fujiyoshi to carry them through. 5 points they lag behind the Americans. And into the net, still good, the ball, and it's been called Points for the Japanese. Helena Oden again, the big hitter. Ito. Now Oden. Now Williams. And that is a big boost there for the Japanese as they were able to contain that spiking power.
Well, I tell you, if you'd have went to Waikiki Beach and asked somebody that had told you that was coming, the Japanese just played it correctly, but it's that defense again that's starting to show its face here and make a difference for them. You see what happens? The moment they get that defense, they start pushing the Americans, and they keep coming at them. And now all of a sudden we had looked like a runaway. Somebody's decided that's not the way this game is going to be played.
Down to just 3 points. Saiki pushing it to Hoshino. Kamna, a big high ball. And it's points for the Japanese again. They're on a good streak here.
You just heard Coach Leskovich not too happy with his team. He's gotten up off the bench. He's had something to say. He's getting a little action from the crowd here.
American bench in a little dispute there over the last points won by the Japanese.
Tara going for it, doesn't get it, but you can see there's 3 defenders sitting there waiting to see what happens. Now we got a temporary timeout. Out comes Tara.
Lane Young's coming in again.
The big jump server. She's had some success early on with that top spin of hers. It gives Japanese some problems, but as I say, if you get those Japanese locked in, we got to hold up in the action here. Let's see if we can pick it up. Okay, I'm sorry. It's looks like it's Kemner on the line now.
Big block again this time. Good by Danielle Scott. Crowd reacting here.
Danielle Scott showing why she's ranked number 9 in this tournament. The only American player is in the top 10. She's at 9.
Elaine Youngs, Scott both going for the ball. Youngs again. Coming in from the far side, and already the foul has been called on one of the Japanese players. So there will be a point to the United States. We'll be back for more action in a moment. 10-6, still in serve, Kamna. And this time the fault call against the Americans.
I think the ball just ticked the ground or was close to it. Kemner got the call on it. Japanese again starting to show a little momentum here. And nice block. We doubled up on that one, Tay, you and I. Both of us got excited. You saw that one. That's the reason, isn't it? They're coming up, and they're ready and anticipating.
7-10. And the Japanese claim supported there by the call from the lines judge. Jump serve from Youngs. Saiki. This Japanese number 11 packing some punch, although not a very tall girl. Cross battle, and the block from the Japanese rebounding. This is the new goer who has come on to replace Kobayashi, Hoshino. Saiki again, and Kamna asking a backline to go look for the ball, but just failed to do so.
I tell you, the Japanese as a team are the type of, they have that type of group mentality where they just don't know intimidation. They're just showing up, they're right in the Americans' face. They're coming back into it again, even though you're seeing a lot of spike power, and particularly that type of power coming from Danielle Scott. I think she's coming off the court for a rest. In comes Weishoff, another one of the veterans, great side spiker in her own right. She can sit on those side positions and she can be intimidating, but I think she's another maturity factor on this American team. she and Karen Kemner.
We've seen the pair of Vaishov and Kamner carry the Americans to victories in the previous pool games. And Liskovic will be looking towards them.
Japanese by no means out of it. They're still playing. They're only down by 4, doing a lot of smart things now, but most of it because of a short-up defense that they didn't have a few minutes ago.
3 Japanese players there going for the same ball, and in the end, the spin caught the other players unawares. And the opportunity lost there for Japan. Number 5 here, Laurie Endicott, making her entrance.
First time we've seen her in the competition on our coverage. I think she was in briefly for a few minutes. But one thing I want to point out here, I haven't said anything about it. Do you see any liberos over there on the American side? Virtually zero, none. They just, it doesn't figure into their offensive mentality. They're just not there as we got a timeout here.
Well, I believe Salima Davidson did come on for just a very brief moment, Steve.
But I don't think anybody would really rightly say that Coach Liskovic has adopted with open arms the whole concept of the libero. He clearly has a team that thinks in terms of, in most American mentalities in terms of sports tend to be very offensively driven. Whereas the Japanese, on the other hand, they've taken full advantage of it because obviously their type of defensive tactics, they need all the help they can get, and that libero fits nicely into their strategy. What about the others? I don't think the Brazilians have taken too much of advantage of it. What have you seen so far? The Russians, not so much? It's been mostly the Asian teams, I think, that have sort of used that to their, hopefully to their benefit, the Koreans in particular.
Definitely so. And we also have not seen the Cubans employ the libero much.
No, they got no time for liberos. They got time for big spikes and in-your-face type of volleyball.
Two American girls there going for that same ball. And one of them must have touched nets on the way there. Must have been Visco Elena Oden. Saiki serving. Cross battle. Youngs now for Kamner with a big ball. And 3 of the Japanese players going up for the block. And it was good.
And Tajimi right there in the center of it, all 3 of them up there. Again, predictable. The Americans can't get that predictable. They just can't decide to play power of volleyball and don't get the kind of results they want all the time.
And a player of Kamner's experience electing to go for the ding shot the first time round. And when it didn't work, it was power. And she won it. Nakatomi. Kamner back set this time for Elaine Youngs and blocks at the nets.
Elaine taking that shot here. Again, they're coming back to the same door and opening it. And the Japanese are there waiting for him with outstretched arms.
Kamner setting for Andy Court. And the block there from Vaishov. Wasn't able to contain it. The ball spinning out. Substitution. Elaine Youngs again making way for Tonya T. Williams.
They're looking to start taking advantage of that side spike position. She may be centered up here. Let me see where she's at. But certainly she's the big driver out there on that outside. And I think that's her. Yeah, that's her right there. And you can see why she's come in. That's her home. She staked that out. She lives there. Whenever their opportunity arises, they're going to set that ball her way, and she's going to go for it.
Lena Oden serving then. The Japanese doing one of their own and finding the weak link there in Laurie Endicott and Hoshino on the offensive. Coach Kazuwa still persisting with this lineup, not bringing Obayashi, who really has not had a good game up to this point.
And here comes T. She's screaming. She's looking for those shots. Nobody anticipates it's not coming.
2 more points, and the fortunes here will be reversed with the Americans going 2-1 up after going behind in the first, and that was another unforced error from the new girl, Hoshino.
That's just that big power coming at them. Again, they've got to lock it up to stay competitive. They've got to play it back.
Kamner, and the ball was beyond the reach of Laurie Endicott as the side out returns to Japan. And the block was effective in denying T. Williams that spike, and it's the 10th point now for Japan. Endicott, high ball, ding shot. She does that one beautifully.
Since she's come off there, she's been the factor, hasn't she? 2 points, now a side out, and now a chance to win it and put them ahead 2-1.
So 1 more point, and the Americans would be in front. The libero there, Davidson, again coming in.
Yeah, Zalima's finally in there for this final crisis point. They need that one to close it out to 2-1, but the Japanese aren't bending.
Nakatomi serves. And Weishoff lending the power to the attack there. And immediately, Weishoff sees that the serve comes back to her team, and it's 1 more point again. And the Japanese will concede the third set here to the Americans. 14-10.
Not yet, Tay.
Not quite yet. First serve from Paula Weishoff.
She tried to hit that ball nice and deep to the line. Unsuccessful.
And the ball coming off now. The Japanese girl from Clara Cross Battle. And once more, it will be set point for the Americans. Saiki. Weishoff now, and a big call, and the lines judge calls it good. And everyone in the crowd here applauds that move from Cross Battle. The Americans now lead 2-1. Join us for set number 4 after the break. Lead in set scores 2-1 after a bright start by the Japanese.
They're trying to, I tell you, what they're going to have to do now, they've just got to get back, somehow find a way that they had it in that first game. They got to get a string going. They've got to start finding that defense and putting it together. That's a good start, and that's who they got to get into this offensive flow. Like you said earlier, she's gone a little bit flat, Tay, but she needs to come back storming. That helps.
Another great point here for the Japanese. So Coach Kuzuwa, after resting Obayashi for the majority of the third set, finally plants his ace back on court. And it will be she who will try to rally the team back into contention against the Americans.
Yeah, but Nakatomi is sending a message to her teammates. She's going for it. She almost got that dig, and that was a huge spike that she was fooling with there, and she almost made it work.
Nakatomi, good quick set there for Ogaki.
There again, the dig's coming at him.
Kamner, now settling. Elena Oden can only stand there and stare and watch as Tajini plants down a winner back into the American half.
She knew where she wanted to put it all away. She had it figured out even before she went in the air. That's good thinking, good strategy.
Kamner, Tajimi did well. Obayashi again. Elena Oden sending it back now for Kamner. And nice block.
Well, all the while, in the last game that we saw, even though the Japanese lost, their blocking ability had started to perk up. It's still there.
Jump serve. Caught there by Cross Battle, coming in for the spike. And the ball coming off the hands of Fujiyoshi.
Not much you can do on a shot like that. Cross Battle known for that type of big spike. As I said earlier, she will get her share.
Fujiyoshi electing to go for the soft touch Kamna, good block again by the Japanese. Fujiyoshi now with that spike. And this time she sets it for Nakatomi. In turn sets it up for Tajimi.
Tajini very quickly emerging into one of the leaders here, one of the unsuspected leaders, but look at this. Quick attack, no defense on the part of the Americans, and the Japanese are in the hunt.
Nakamura now is Nakatomi. And the ball going wide and long off T. Williams.
She hit it off her hand flat. It just took off flat, didn't have any chop at all. Miss-hit, out of there. Now we see Liskovich getting worried. You know, they had it their own way the last two games. They were cruising.
Williams sending it to Zetlin. It's Williams again. And Japanese block seemed to jump that bit higher in this set.
And Nakatomi there, along with her partner, showing again how this block has been a big factor. But what they're linking it to is those digs. And suddenly, without any warning, we got a 4-0 lead, and the Japanese are feeling good.
Kamna, and the ball sent in to the net by Fujiyoshi. The Americans now go looking for their opening points here in the fourth set. Fujiyoshi into body of cross battle, and that is put wide headlong by T. Williams.
T missing two in a row. That's the thing about T. She can come back at you. She can give you three straight with brilliant plays and turn around and hit two ducks.
Good serve for the Japanese. Zetlin now for Kamna. The net doing, the block doing its job, and it's 5-0 to Japan. Join us for more action after the break. Like, see, the things that have been doing so well in the opening set, which they won, they're now doing it here again in the fourth set.
You're absolutely right, Tay. Whatever it was that went on in the break worked. There's some kind of elixir coaches Kazuha put on his club, because they have really found their way again. And I think it's been due to the good blocking that was always there, as I said, but then that resurgence of the dig power that they're showing, and some errors, some little fractures of play offensively on the part of Americans. They're not getting the big shots that they got before.
And everything that the Americans are employing, not going for them.
That time Fujiyoshi in the thick of it, blocking.
Cross battle. Now the touch there from Scott. Nakatomi.
Once again, the dig's in the play here. Here it comes again, and the spike and another dig.
Obayashi. A long ball back into the Americans' half, and it's sent down. No mercy shown there. Danielle Scott.
Quieting the storm that time. Danielle just able to angle that ball completely away from the Japanese defenders, and then their turnaround with an unforced error. Japanese got to be feeling good about this right now.
It came from T. Williams. 1-5. Obayashi. Well, that one was a winner for the Japanese. There wasn't really that much power involved in that execution, but nonetheless it found the space at the back there, and that won a point for Japan. Power of Danielle Scott.
A few moments ago, we saw these players smiling, laughing, real comfortable. Now there's not that many smiles out there right now. They sense that the Japanese have come up a notch or two, and they need to get back control of this game. They got to get the game back in control, the rhythm coming back their way. You see Coach Liskovich jotting something down there. He's concerned. Another error. You see, what's creeping into the American game is this mental break or shift here. They were so relaxed, and they were making virtually no mistakes. Now, all of a sudden, the strings are going to come along here.
Great block again from the Japanese, led by Obayashi. And she puts a stop to the points for the Americans. It's 7-2, Japan. Ito now will serve.
Obayashi declaring herself back in this one forever. She wants to play the game, and she wants to lead her team.
And it's out, and the Japanese bench reacting with joy there, just like the players on the court for that point to Japan.
And I think that's a good timeout coming in. I really do. The Americans do not have. They've gone sluggish. I think they thought they owned this best-of-5 series with that last win. I really do. They had it pretty much their own way, but the Japanese are resilient. Boy, it just tells you a great deal about their mental tenacity and why we've been saying all this time, Tay, that they're due. They just have it. They've got all the stats looking their way. It's just a matter of coming together with that maturity and pulling a win together. Is this going to be the night? Who knows? It might well be. Then again, the Americans might resume with that big power game that they got and take control. Let's find out.
Well, the crowds here at the University of Hawaii Hall might not go home a happy lot if the Japanese continue to show.
Well, you know, Japan, Honolulu is the home of a lot of Japanese honeymooners, and I'm sure there's plenty of partisan fans out there supporting their team.
Well, we certainly did see some Japanese supporters in the stands earlier on. And the players have given them plenty of reasons to cheer.
Naomi Ito on the line to serve, and we see Karen Kemner coming out, and in comes Weishaupt. No particular significance. They'll be doing that throughout the rest of these, whatever we see today, whether they tie it up tonight or go to a fifth.
Sarah cross battle.
Look at that, 9-2. Who would have believed it? It was virtually all over, but you might as well throw in the kitchen sink and the towel and everything else, but not. Somebody forgot to tell the Japanese. They're in it.
Laurie Endicott also coming in now for Zetterlund. And straight away, she does a disservice to her team by serving into the net.
When you get good blocking, good digging, reasonable spiking, and errors on the other side, you end up with a 9-2 deficit. And there we go. Rack one more.
10-2. A great, huge lead here for the Japan in this fourth set. And we'll be back with more action in a moment. Back, and the Japanese holding fort here in the fourth set. Scoreline 10-2.
And the Japanese are rumbling. They are showing signs of erupting here, and they're playing a great match this game. They're looking to tie it all up and see if they can. Who knows? They're sure coming at us like they can.
Japanese team so different from the side that lost the second and third sets to the Americans.
Obayashi coming back in it again, getting back into this offensive flow. And I think outside of the points I've made, I think as an individual, this has been a factor as well. She's back in it.
Endicott. Weishaupt, and a big one. Fujiyoshi, not much sting in that. And the ball cunningly goes off the hands of one of the American players.
We saw her going right down the line with it, just high enough to get off the tops of the hands of the defenders.
Big hit there from T. Williams.
T back in it again. She had 2 or 3 errors early on, then comes back around again. She's like hot and cold, yin and yang. You never really know. You just hope that she's going to pick up that heat when you need it the most, especially on the tail ends of games.
Christine Klein back in the thick of things in place of Elena Oden. Scott there, standing her arm was good. Cross battle.
See, Coach Liskovich can sense it. He can see it. We can see it as well. What's happening is she put in Christine there. I think she had service power just then. But what's going on here is they're getting out of rhythm. They're not into that groove that they were not more than 5 minutes ago, the Americans.
Liskovich hoping that this present group of players will gel. But they have a long way to go in securing the points, which will take them to challenge the Japanese.
Kara shoring it up again, helping her team out, playing it smart, going for that dink shot. But still, for the Americans, they're looking at a 7-point deficit, and they got work to do.
Well, that is the 5th point for the Americans, courtesy of the error from Tajimi.
We got a timeout here. Coach Kazuha, what he wants that club to do right now, that team to do right now, I use the word club interchangeably. Out here we should be talking team. What he wants the team to do is not to lose that mental energy that they had to put them into the lead right now. And that's a real important inspirational job for a coach at this point, Tay, to make sure that they stay pumped up, get on that edge of the envelope, and do what it is that made it happen. And in this case, Diggs, good blocking and appropriate spiking when they need it, and forcing the Americans to make those unforced errors. This team has that capacity. They know how to get pumped up.
Well, in the last 7 matches, the Japanese have at times come very, very close to clinching a victory. So in this 8th match, it just might happen for them. So we see the Americans going to work again. Nice set down from Nakatomi.
Both ways.
And the ball finally coming off. Danielle Scott. Side out, back to Japan.
Fujiyoshi again becoming a factor. She's been a steady player here in this tournament and in this match tonight.
11-5, 4 more points, and not quite yet, as T. Williams again sends the ball down.
Now we're playing push me, pull you. Both teams are mentally, you can see them coming up. Their heads are grooved a little bit more. They're flaming up a little bit higher. The Americans, of course, got a big deficit. They need to do a lot more. They need to get real offensive.
Well, Fujiyoshi again presents their point there to the Americans.
She goes for the block, unable to do it. Or I'm sorry, the spike and unable to do it.
And now a cross-running spike from Fujiyoshi. Lex power, that one. Americans come and they gain another point. The fight is on. Led here by T. Williams.
T coming on, starting to play that real heavy offensive game that she's noted to do.
Fujiyoshi, and again she's denied by the great block there of the Americans, this time led by Danielle Scott.
Ebb and flow with Scott up there and T up there. They've got themselves a good lineup at the net. They don't want to get stuck.
And suddenly the Americans come that much closer. Now just 2 points behind the Japanese.
Slowly, Coach Kazuha. Of course, he's admonishing his team, come on, get back to where you were, get that defensive mentality working, and get an offensive lineup going.
And the 8-point lead that we saw just moments ago has been cut to just 1 now.
And do the Japanese have the mental grit to be able to shake this off and get back where they're at?
And Fujiyoshi finally powers a winner into the body of Weishaupt.
Fujiyoshi's a factor. She showed it.
And she takes a deserved rest as Kazuha sends on Saiki.
Mika Saiki, a real sidewinder. She moves everywhere on the court.
11-10, but the Japanese make no inroads as Danielle Scott sends the spike down. Will be a side out back to the USA.
Americans are rumbling. They seem to be back into that confidence zone that they had at the end of this. I guess it was, I always get my games here. We're in the 4th game, the end of the 3rd game here. They're certainly looking a lot more comfortable.
And it's the equalizing point for the Americans.
It's got to be a little bit frustrating to the Japanese because they were playing so well, and then suddenly they're out of it, or at least they're back locked up again.
The poor serve there from T. Williams, and Saiki there eventually managing to get the ball back into play. And the rally still on. Ito, and Ito sends the ball out, and to her dismay, it's the Americans who lead.
They've come back from the dead here, the Americans have, and they've brought it back, and they've got themselves a 1-point lead now. It's a new game. And this is the tail end of that game, and now's the time, if the Japanese have got any grit, this is when they have to show it, because there's no tomorrow for them. It's all over. They're down by 1.
Moments ago, it was 10-2 to Japan. And they find themselves now 11-12.
And it's Obayashi, predictably, who you would expect to do it, and she did. Big, big point. Mentally, huge.
12-all, and a wasted serve by Nakatomi. She's hardly put a foot wrong, Nakatomi.
That's unfortunate. She just had a serve go out on her. As you say, she's a very, very steady player generally. She's been everywhere on those defensive plays, and particularly in the block area.
So 12-all, and this time the Americans with the error from Scott.
They got a gift. They really did. Can they take advantage of it?
Ito serves as Japan looks for that lead again. And Saiki there fighting a losing battle against cross battle.
You see Tara coming across, sliding right across, looking for that open spot, getting up over that net. Perfect timing, great spike. And again, they get an opportunity. Again, and this time,
Laurie Endicott.
Laurie missed that serve. That's the wrong time to be letting this happen. I know she feels terrible about it. Japanese now got a chance to be able to pull it back in again.
The live wire Fujiyoshi, so prominent in attack, has come on again in place of Saiki. And that was Najimi.
Just getting the line. It's a game of inches like all sports. Here we see Liskovich wondering, and we're not, actually they're up by one, 13-12. They're actually in an opportunity here to be able to close it out if they can keep this offense moving.
And Cross Battle has other ideas as she pounds step one beyond the reach of Nakamura.
Oh, yeah, Tara just showing what makes her the great player that she is and why she's so respected around the world. She comes up with that big spike cross court.
12-13, and now the big point awaits the Americans as Obayashi sends the ball out.
They tried to answer. They weren't able to do it. Now we're knotted up at 13. Let me tell you, these 2 points are huge. This one is a real swing part of this contest today, Tay.
Fujiyoshi, and now the spike coming down again, and it works for T. Williams.
And it's T coming through. Look at that. She's calling for that crowd. She's saying, come on, I want to hear it. They need to get pumped up. They got to stay high on this edge of the envelope. They've got a very, very gritty team they're looking at. They could come back and they can hurt you.
And the crowd here on the edge of their seats, many of them standing up now in anticipation of an American victory.
Not that time. Japanese got other ideas. They've got their own agenda out here. They've come back out in this fourth game gunning.
T. Williams there in a hurry to finish off the Japanese. And here she comes again. The block was good from Najimi. Fujiyoshi.
I think it ticked a hand. It certainly did. Yes, it did. It's still possession to the Japanese.
So Fujiyoshi and the rest of the teammates fight tooth and nail here for survival. And there is the old veteran, Paula Weishoff, doing good with that last ball. Nakatomi sets up, and it's good for Tajimi.
And you know, all day we've been talking about the fact that the Americans are a bit sluggish off that line. Of course, this was just a very good deception type shot, but you see she wasn't able to get up there. I think that was Oden unable to react with her forward movement, and it hurt him. And there's the block.
And it's good from Ito.
Ito coming through big time, because now they're within one of pulling this thing into a 5-game contest.
So the neutrals would love to see the Japanese clinch this set and force the deciding fifth. And that's powered down. The Japanese claim that it's good. And the Americans look to the referee, but they've given it a point to the Japanese.
You don't see Liskovich arguing the point. They missed the shot. They missed the block, Tay. We're going to 5.
And join us for the deciding sets in a moment. We're set for the 5th and deciding game here between Japan and the USA. And this will be a great opportunity here for the Japanese who start on the same level playing here as the Americans. This is a brand new team that we are seeing, isn't it, Steve? So different from the ones that lost the second and third sets.
Well, I got to say this. Earlier when we started watching the Japanese, we saw this same kind of mentality and operation in the first game where they went on to win it. And I mentioned to the folks at that time, this is a really interesting situation because we see a team coming together. They went flat. You didn't see much of it for a couple games, and now all of a sudden they are back, and we are into a rally point where everybody scores, no matter whether it's offense or defense. And the Japanese headset, their mental tenacity, has got to be a factor.
And immediately there was a good block there, and the delight on the face of Ikumi Ogake sends Japan into a 2-0 lead here in the fifth and deciding set.
And they're only 13 points away, which is some distance, but still, this is the closest I think they've ever been to a win in this contest, in this tournament. And now they've picked up one more, and the Americans are baffled. They're just out there watching this happen to them, and things are coming apart like a cheap rug here.
3 points. Zetterland comes out, and in comes Laurie Endicott. Try and stop this Japanese tidal wave here as Obayashi and Kamner. The Americans will need the experience of Kamner as they chalked up there the first point from cross battle.
Cross battle just coming across with a nice little dink, being able to pick up the point. As you know, in rally, doesn't matter, serve, defense, whoever makes the error, whoever makes the offensive moves gets the point. So it's going to move fast. And the last game only went about, what, 12 minutes before the Japanese were able to pull off the win. So things happen fast in volleyball. What's the score? 3-2 now to the Japanese. Americans tightening it up.
Cross battle delivering the first 2 points here for the Americans. The initial error from Obayashi, and this time Obayashi finds the line. The Americans are not happy with that.
No, they're saying that the point goes to the Japanese, and Liskovic is not happy. He saw the ball go out, but you just saw the referee raise his hand. It's one more point to the Japanese. In a rally game, that is crucial, because now suddenly, Tay, it's 4-2.
4-2. And as we see today for the first time, a close-up shot of the referee, Mr. Akin Ara from Turkey.
Yeah, who pulled out a yellow card at the reaction of the American club.
That would probably be for dissent against the American players.
Well, we didn't see a replay on it, but it appeared to me, I mean, just on a quick glance, that the ball may have been just a tick out.
Now the Americans come again. Five-shot a back set here for Elena Oden, Ito, Nakatomi, and this one will come for Najimi. And Oden again. Cross battle. And Obayashi sends the winner beyond the reach of Endicott.
It all starts with those good digs with the Japanese. Turns around with timely spikes, and they're at 6s and 7s, the Americans. They're down 5-2. They're trying to find their rhythm. They're desperately trying to get where they are. They don't seem to be finding their spikers properly out there. Outside of, I think, some pretty good play from T. Williams, she's been fairly consistent. Danielle Scott's not doing much, and Tara isn't doing much. But, you know, when you look at this kind of defense, it's all revolving around these good, I should say, good digs with the Japanese and their ability to block and anticipate the offensive strategy and tactics of the Americans. Plus, the unseen, the headset, the mental stuff. The Japanese desperately want to win, and they are doing it on U.S. soil.
Well, they can say that the Japanese are really peaking at the right moments. The fourth set, they were so dominant. And right now here in the fifth, continuing from where they left off, Obayashi again finds the winner.
And they're just not going to be denied. It's that dig, that early dig. I don't know who it was. She went to the floor. She took floor burns. She didn't mind, and it finally earned them a point. 6-2 to the Japanese.
And at the end of the point, you can see across a battle, looking a little bewildered. And this time it's put right by Elena Oden.
And she had to use it twice to be able to get it. 2 of those quick attacks before they were finally able to get themselves in the score column. 6-3.
Endicott with a good serve. Saiki sending it out for Tajimi, and the block at the far end by Kamna can only propel the ball into the stands, which means that the Japanese have chalked up yet another point.
And the front line of the Americans simply flat out aren't doing the job. They're making too many mistakes up there.
Kamna, this time the Japanese able to read her intentions.
And there again, you see it. Excuse me, Tay. I have to interrupt because you see the block. You see it. They're coming right at them.
So the change of ends here, and we have a noticeably quiet crowd here. You just can't believe that the team which has been going so well in sets number 2 and 3 are now staring a defeat, but not quite yet. They still got a chance to catch up with the Japanese, although the score at this moment is a 5 points gap you're seeing.
And it starts to look forever more at 8-3 that the Japanese really do have a chance to turn this around. Who would have believed that, especially following that last game when they went down, what was it, 15-10, and they were down 2-1.
To gain a victory here and the home of the opponents would be a tremendous achievement. Very close to coming to victory now, the Japanese. Obayashi sends one, and Fujiyoshi, I believe, puts the ball down again for a point.
And, you know, luck is always part of this game as well. Earlier, we saw Fujiyoshi try those liners, and she wasn't making it. There, she got it just when she needed it. So the luck is working with them as well. I got to tell you, the momentum's moving that way. Here's Kemner trying to talk it up, chat it up. They don't need to. They really don't need to get back this far in the hole because it's going to be a real problem for them.
Let's see how Elaine Youngs will perform in the absence of Kamna, as Nakamura there fails to control the ball. Rain start here for the American substitutes. Nakatomi setting up for Obayashi again. Didn't get over the American block, and there will be point here for the Americans.
You get a feeling right now the Americans have to make something happen real positive on this series here, Tay. They've got to get themselves closer to that, to locking it up.
The big hit there, and that one pleases the crowd from T. Williams.
And the crowd in the background yelling, T. As soon as they knew he got up, and that's got to pump her up. What factor you think the home crowd advantage will have, I don't know. They're climbing back into it, but the Japanese are holding tough. And here's T. Watch her come up. Decides to take it right at him, goes through two of the defenders. Good spike.
One of the best spikes we've seen all night. We're seeing it at a crucial point in time here for the Americans, as T. Williams, earlier on at 1 point in the contest, we see her rallying the crowd, urging them, and she and the rest of the teammates really need the crowd's encouragement here.
T coming back out again, playing her next to the last game for this team. She obviously in her head, she's thinking, I want to get a win here. I want to take this one home. She's playing in front of her whole crowd. They're still on serve.
6-9 as Nakatomi sets it up again for Fujiyoshi, and two Americans going for the same ball. Both failed, to the dismay of Liskovich.
And you see Liskovich's face. All day long they've been sluggish off that secondary line. Now they're showing it again in this decider, and it's the wrong time to be getting heavy feet.
Big one again, pounding down from Williams. Well contained by Nakamura. Americans keeping the ball in. And Obayashi this time to the rescue, but third time around, Obayashi with an outstretched arm, and the Japanese on the offensive. Cross battle, keeping them alive. Nakatomi to Fujiyoshi again, and the Americans back paddle as the Japanese secure another point.
In my mind, that's the point of the match. T went up there, she threw the kitchen sink at him, the sofa, the TV, the dining room table, and the Japanese just kept coming back until Obayashi was able to pull that left-handed spike down the line. Great volleyball with the Japanese, well earned up to this point. Playing like the team, they had the potential on the stats to show that they could be. Would you agree?
Definitely so, as the Japanese come now to within 4 points of clinching this victory. And if they do manage to pull this one off over the Americans, it will be their first in 8 outings. And wouldn't it be sweet?
It would be a great win for them if they can do it, honestly. But let me tell you, they're up against, on home soil, the Americans. They've got T sitting over there. She's in her groove. She's playing well, as she just proved there.
Well, again, the Americans look for the inspiration, and T. Williams providing it.
Like to say I had that call planned, say on T's shot, but it was just a good luck on my part. But she really has been playing consistent, not hard to see.
Another big hitter coming in, Danielle Scott, in place of Varshov, as the Japanese clinches yet another point.
Japanese doing it with subtlety, good defense, and when they have to spike for one of their players out there, notably Obayashi.
12-7, the touchdown there, and it was good. 8 points now. That one came from Scott.
And when you get used to anticipating Danielle's rockets and she decides to dink you, it can freeze you in your tracks.
Elaine Young's jump serve didn't quite trouble Tajimi, as Fujiyoshi sends the winner down again. And Elaine Young's first unable to control it. Second time round, Terra Cross Battle did the same. And now the Japanese are 2 points away from victory.
And the potential of Maki Fujiyoshi was realized right then and there. She got pulled out for a moment. They brought in Saiki, or she's going to serve. Saiki, that roundhouse type serve. Let's see how she does it. That's a standard serve at that time.
Williams again pounding it down. And the Japanese are now 1 point away from this victory over the Americans.
Absolutely amazing. They have earned it. And if they get it, they certainly have earned it. Let's see what happens.
Saiki there with a serve. A big moment is in store here for the Japanese.
Big digs.
And it's put out. They've done it. The Japanese have done it.
And they're absolutely overjoyed, and you can't help but feel a little something for them. And there's T. Williams, not happy. They gave up too much, too late.
And you have to feel there for the Americans. They have a chance of finishing off the Japanese in the 4th set after winning sets 2 and 3.